This conference will now be recorded.
They took the draft.
They put the
Right.
graph.
No, on their set.
Okay.
No papers.
And this is media, this is not going to,
Over the set.
this is going to the resident, or this, you're gonna send that through the,
Yeah, we'll go out to our media contacts and then we'll post it on our website and all of our different avenues that we have to get it out to.
Doesn't, it doesn't.
so you're not gonna send it as a text
Screens are
message?
so dense.
We'll send it as a text.
The whole
Work
thing?
under there.
Well, it's a link to it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call to order the budget meeting of the Town Commission on August 2nd, 2021 at 2 p.m. Thank you to those that are listening to our live audio feed. Just a reminder that those that wish to make public comments during the meeting are encouraged to attend in person or send comments to the town clerk prior to the meeting. Clerk Armstrong, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Cost,
Here.
Mayor Tehasset,
Present.
Commissioner Pugh,
Here.
Commissioner Bishola.
Here.
Let the record show Vice Mayor Herbert is absent with notice.
Thank you. Please join us in rising to the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'll now open the floor to public comment.
Hello, I'm Zoe Hannigan, 91 Highland Drive South. As a former commissioner, I know this isn't a fun or an easy job to do, but it's probably one of the most important tasks that y'all have. I have been listening to all of the budget meetings, but I wanted to come in person today because I at least wanted to express some of my feedback. First of all, I felt like the analysis on the reserve fund was excellent, Tracy. Thank you so much. And I wanted to compliment all of the commission for doing an excellent job at looking at creative ways to save money. Things like leasing the police cars, staffing alternatives to get us over surges in the workload without putting permanent staff in place with commensurate benefit packages, prioritizing capital projects that may be discretionary, and with new police Jones being prudent and conservative in hiring. Although property values have increased 4.3% over the last year, it's not enough to cover all the increased expenses. Expenses like maintaining the drainage infrastructure that's been delayed for so long, software technology for safety and productivity for the police, for the building department, and for all of the staff. And there are some expenses that are out of our control. Fire EMS, the retirement contribution, insurance rates for workers' comp and liability, and just the overall cost for doing business. And then there's also a cost for living in Ocean Ridge, especially with the concierge services that many residents love and demand. Things like the community assistance for elders and invalids, the dark house checks, and the beach patrol. In conclusion, and I'm just one resident, but I thought since you don't usually get too much feedback from residents, I felt like we really can't take a huge amount of money out of our reserves. Although our auditors say the percentage of what we want to do usually is fine, we have a small budget, and you know, a percentage of a small budget isn't actually a lot of money, and it's not large enough if we have an emergency. And so given all of your hard work, to my knowledge, we haven't raised taxes in over 10 years, yet our expenses continue to escalate and compound at an amount that exceeds the annual increases of our property values. For our desired level of services, this just isn't sustainable. So I personally, just my opinion, I feel it's irresponsible to take out more than $200,000 from reserves. And yes, that would be an increase in taxes, but I think it can be explained rather nicely to our public. And even me, with the value of my house, I understand it's going to cost me and cost others. more money, but I just don't see an alternative to keep our town in good financial stand. So that's my sort of summary of everything I've read and listened to over the past couple of months.
Thank you. It's so nice to know that people actually pay attention. Thank you very much. Okay, agenda item number 1, discussion of the proposed fiscal year 22 budget. Town Manager Stevens, will you please advise us on this item?
Absolutely, I'll try to make it short and sweet for you. I'm presenting the version 3.0 of the proposed fiscal year 22 budget. The overall projected budget expenses of 8.8 million are calculated at the flat rate, are not at a flat rate, it's calculated at the millage rate of 5.65, assuming a 97.5% collection rate for ad valorem taxes and utilization of reserves in the amount of 103,534 to balance the budget. I also included option B calculated at 5.35, option C with a 5.45 mill rate, and option D with a 5.55 mill rate. Please keep in mind that there are still items in the budget that will need to be adjusted as rates are received, such as insurance rates. I did receive our health insurance rates, and they are lower than projected, so that will be a savings to this budget. I'll share those figures with you in a few minutes. Changes in the budget since version 2.0 based on town commission direction or new information received are as follows. Change the mill rate to 5.65 and provided alternative mill rate scenarios. Use a capital item for fire hydrant repair and replacement in the amount of 35,000 until more information is received regarding the potable water contract renewal. And this was deferred to FY23. Researching whether or not opera funding will cover these costs. Remove the capital item for potable water infrastructure repair and replacement in the amount of 110,000 until more information is received regarding the potable water contract, and researching whether or not opera funding will cover these costs as well. Adding 10,000 revenue from Crown Colony for the lighting installation for the crosswalk. I did speak with Ron Kern, and he had spoken to the HOA, and they are in agreement that they will fund up to $10,000 for the lighting. Deleted the revenue line item for a potential new revenue source in the estimated amount of 110,000, as we are waiting for more information regarding our potable water contract. Added 126,000 revenue line item for ARPA funding to cover expenditures for capital items 10C, 17, and 18. However, depending on conversations with our grant administrator, we may or may not be able to cover those costs with ARPA. It's looking like we will not be able to, so we may need to remove that revenue item.
That was a total 126.
126,000. We decreased the wages and benefits for the lieutenant's position from 141,556 to 51,816, as this position will not be filled for at least 6 months. Added a line item in the amount of 50,000 to the police department budget for software. Increased the special detail expenditure line item in the police department to match current activity, and increase the associated revenue line as this is a pass-through cost. Updated the FRS percentages based on rates received, noting a savings of 13,471 in retirement costs. Decreased the need for revenue from reserve from 653,540 to 103,534. And last but not least, I'll go back to the insurance rates. It is going to save the town about $13,000 for the rates that we received. So that will bring the proposed reserves down to 90,130. However, if we add the 126 to that I was just talking about for revenue.
And were there not 2 other items, one being some FEMA money that we got in terms of reimbursement? Did we not get some money back from FEMA?
That's different budget. That has nothing to do with the new budget.
But I'd like to see the effect on what our reserves are, because that means that we've got less money coming out potentially, correct? Yeah.
Potentially, yeah.
And don't forget the 150,000. Remember, there's 150 that won't be spent. If it moves to the next fiscal, the money's already there.
And
So
that was
we'd
the
like to-
generator.
Yeah, it would go to reserves and then come back out.
Right.
So it's a wash.
So how much was that FEMA money though?
30.
It was 33,000 something.
So 33, and that's in this fiscal year,
Mhm.
so it'll mean a reduction of what we potentially may need to take out.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't affect the proposed budget, like I said. It
Not the
will-
proposed
it will
budget,
put
I'm
money
talking-
back in
Correct, that's what I'm talking about.
for the current year.
It'll reduce the draw from.
Correct.
Correct. But I think that's an important, I mean, we keep focusing on the reserve as part of one of the key, there's only 3 components of where you can actually take money, so. Okay, so that was 33, and due to our recent personnel changes, will that be any further reduction?
Or maybe, we don't know yet.
Okay, so fiscal year 22 may be in a potential plus 150, less 13, plus 126. Am I got that doing right?
Yeah, but the 150 would be put into reserves from this fiscal
Yeah.
So it's a
and then
wash.
pulled out by Tracy.
Okay, so it would be a reduction in 13, but an addition potential in 126.
Correct, which would bring us to 216, 130. On the reserves,
It would
Or
pull-
at what mill rate?
5.65.
So 216, 130?
Mhm.
And.
Yep.
Okay,
You want to know what that number is at a different mill rate?
sure.
Well, how
You
much
might
is
as well
it?
give it to us on all the mill
535, just out of 535.
Well, let's just do all of them, 555, 545, and 535, right?
Go ahead.
Just clicking the buttons.
Didn't you say it was, what was it?
They just
So
changed.
many thousand
It's 100 per point,
per point, right?
110 actually.
Sorry, 5.35. Reserves would be 426,000.
How can that be? Right now, they're sitting at
We'd be
439,000.
taking out of reserves.
Yeah, but it
Right,
says,
right now, it says 439,404.
we just saved 13,000 out of,
But then we just added 126.
right.
Correct.
So that
That's what
doesn't
I'm
make
saying.
sense. That number doesn't make sense. You just
That's what it is.
It can't be. Right now, we're saying at 535,
It's 439.
our reduction, our pull from reserves will be $439,404.
Where are you getting that from?
Version 3.0, general fund 001, revenue and expenditures.
You know, it could be that 13,000 insurance.
It is, yeah. I'm working off of a document where I've taken 13,000 out from insurance.
Okay. That still doesn't make sense. $439,000 from reserves, and then we're gonna not get the offset of 126, so it should be 439 plus 126 is what we would need to be taking from reserves. You went, at 5.65, you went from 103 to 216. That's in the right direction. You can't be going in the opposite direction at a lesser mill rate.
No,
We're missing
What
something.
document are you looking at?
We're on the,
What- She was
Statement of
at
revenues and
200 at
expenditures.
565 and at 426 at 535. So we went up 200,000 because of the mill rate, which is correct. But if we have 100,000 per point one, then we should be going up 300,000, which would then come back with that 126. So we would be at 552 at
Correct.
535, which would make sense because we're jumping 0.3 on the mill.
well, why don't we do all these? Maybe-
That's what I was
Yeah.
hoping we were doing. But I'll pull out my handy
So we'll
dandy.
put a question mark after that.
No, it's anybody with a calculator. So the delta is we're just adding 113 to any of the reserve deductions. So
Yeah, there might have been something else that was.
439,
So, on this version.
404 plus 113 to be 439, 404 plus 113,000 would be 552,404
So
at 535. All you're doing is adding
I
one.
understand what you're doing, but Tracy, you entered a lot of data and arrived at this, so it might be a data breakdown versus, you know what I'm saying?
It's a data breakdown for her to do the automatic calculation. It's not a data breakdown for us to simply know what the number is. All you're adding is 113,000.
Right, but I'm sure in Tracy's program, she factored that in over the last several days. So it's something,
Did you factor in the 126,000?
Let's say an estimate, okay, this is an estimate.
126.
Hold on.
113 because you're offsetting it by the 13 that came in.
Okay, wait a second, hold on. Give me a second.
So according to my estimate, adding back in $113,000 that would be required from reserves based on the reduction of 13 and the addition back of 126 because of ARPA non-coverage. At 565 reserve reduction, the amount that would need to be taken from reserves would be 216,130. If we are at 5.55, it would be
you're
328,000.
paying, slow down, do the first one again.
216,130.
Mhm.
At 5.55, it would be 328,491. At 5.45, it would be 440,447. And at 5.35, it would be 552,404.
So you understand my question, right? In other words, I understand the simple math you're doing,
Mhm.
but Tracy, I'm assuming, has a spreadsheet that flows
I do.
everything into it.
Yeah.
So like, for instance, we know we're saving X amount of dollars on the police chief and then the lieutenant and all that,
That's already baked in there.
but her numbers should be better than our numbers.
That better be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I would hope that we get good numbers too, because they're the ones ultimately that need to make a decision on this.
So you, what do you think?
Okay, so I just took out the 126. And
But while she's doing that, at least it's going down.
Okay, so taking the 126 out. That's right, so what did you get for a number? Because I got for reserves at, taking the 126 out, calculating for the insurance, and then at a 5.35, it would be taking 552 out of reserves.
Yep.
Got it?
Mhm.
Then,
So I carried that logic across, so you can continue to work. Can we go on with it? Okay. All right. Well, 126 is a disappointment, I know, to all of us. And it is what it is. What we haven't calculated into this is what impact, potential impact we might have with our closed door session that's coming up. So I just want everybody to kind of keep that in the back of your mind. It's not something to discuss publicly, but it will affect it for sure. One of the questions, I mean, I had very few questions and I think there's very few modifications. There's three things that I'd like to discuss as a commission. One is the 2 part-time employees, because I've had questions filtered to me about that. And another one was as part of the CIP, particularly the one that the 3 issues that we just found out are not covered by ARPA. Do we want to defer them? And/or I had some other questions. So at the pleasure of the commission, where would you like to start discussions?
Well, here's my whole problem with the budget. Now that we have new numbers, that is disturbing. Number one. Number two, we got the ARPA money, which we think,
We don't have the ARPA money.
the grant guy thinks. And we also have the potable water deal. So we have potential of what, $300,000 that we don't really know about, but we're budgeting for?
No, we just removed the 126 from the budget. We removed it from the revenue, but not from the cost. So that was one of the suggestions I had, is that we revisit those 3 line items and see if they are deferrable or not. I don't know.
I understand what you're saying. But it just, we have so many loose balls in the air.
Well, I think you can take it for as a, this is where we need to start to put some lines in the sand. I know we like to talk ethereally and things may happen. The line in the sand is the 126 is not going to be covered by ARPA, period, over out. That's what the grant writer said. It's a positive, it's a done. So if we would like to discuss those 3, go ahead and discuss those 3 items and see if there's a deferment.
So is there anything else that he suggested that's in our budget that might be covered and he hasn't figured
In
it
our
out?
budget, no.
No. All right.
It
The
turns,
projects are just too small.
For those projects,
Make them bigger.
that money could be used though for our septic to sewer conversion?
and it could also probably be used more likely if you looked at Lisa Tripeppi's
Yeah.
analysis from last month, it would more likely be used as one large project as a segment of our water mains.
Absolutely.
If something
Which-
happens
which-
with our water.
We have some asbestos concrete lines that should come out and put new lines in, and that definitely would qualify.
So it turns out
But we're
ARPA
still
one
negotiating
big
with
long-term
Point.
project.
On the water contract,
Correct.
Correct.
so,
We also have some stormwater that would be able to.
so stormwater repairs would be covered under it,
Not repair, a stormwater project.
okay.
New install.
So, well, we can come back to personnel. I'd like to look at the 3 items that we have now found out are not covered by ARPA and see if there's the appetite to keep them in the budget. First was item 10C, which was a catch basin upgrade valve
Okay, Joe.
replacement. At the very, very last tab, page 4. Capital improvement plan, item 10C. Catch basin upgrade valve replacements on Spanish River Drive at $50,000.
Yes, before you begin the discussion, I have some comments from Vice Mayor Herbert. And she has some specifically to the capital fund. Do you mind me reading it first and then you guys can continue?
Sure.
Capital fund input, item number 10. This one's for Coconut Lane work. With pipes under the driveway not being maintained, continued water issues abound. The staff proposal of improving the drainage through removal of said pipes and the addition of working swales while keeping the curb to allow drainage to flow where it needs to go seems not just appropriate but necessary. I have proposed it to be reconsidered within our budget. Last but not least, I would like to see us add the Raftellus report back into the budget this year. This will be an assist to the process of going from septic to sewer. The writing is on the wall that septic is a poorly conceived concept of waste removal no longer fitting the future of Ocean Ridge. The environmental impact makes no sense in this day and age of forward thinking. The future is to move to sewer, and yes, it will be expensive but entirely necessary. Our island is exceedingly fragile and becoming more so every year. I think we all saw the notice last week in regards to the ocean park contamination. I support becoming more proactive with regards to the future of our town, and this includes the items I've mentioned today. Basically, we are playing catch up on many situations, and they will not become less costly the longer we defer moving forward.
Tracy, how much was that raft Telus to firm at 63?
65, yes, or 63 or 65.
All right,
So you're asking about the catch basin, that's where you started, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Lisa's not here. Is this the one we semi-repaired previously? Now we need to go back, or is this a totally separate?
54, 55 was an area where we
Where the
did
bend
the
is.
easement, yes.
Yeah,
Right, you
but
know,
as part of that,
Joe,
it was
that's
like going out to the intercoastal.
correct,
And
and
we
I
put
thought
in a
that was
filtered
done,
catch, right.
correct, so.
So what's going on over there?
You talking about the catch basin upgrade?
Yes, C,
See,
10C.
as you know, we still have a lot of water issues over there on that island. And this was a part of the plan to alleviate some of that.
Are you talking the far end now?
Yeah.
We're talking Bimini Cove?
Right.
So we're not talking 54, 55.
Right, that's what's confusing.
60, 62, 63. No, that's right. So it's on that other bend there, not in the cul-de-sac area.
It's a cul-de-sac,
The first
48.
bend.
Yep. The
The
first
first
end.
bend is the thing on the right.
Yep.
Yeah. But
I guess my question with this, and I think you're correct, there may be some tweaks at 54, 55, but the majority of that work has been done.
Yeah.
At 60, 62, and 63, is there anything that residents could or should be doing to help also alleviate some of what we're gonna do?
You talking about swelling and things?
Which street are we on right now?
Spanish River.
Spanish River. This is not the bend in at Bimini.
No,
No,
this is the first bend you come to.
where the bushes were taken out, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Catch basin right there.
That's sewer.
Right.
No.
And there's consistent
That's in
standing
between.
water there after a rain event. We've gone out there consistently and taken pictures, and it's consistently.
So I'm losing track.
Both on east and the west side?
Mostly on the
No, mostly on the,
east.
what's that?
It's mostly on the east.
East side, yeah.
Mhm.
So in front of the Spencer's, kind of like that area. Nick Khalil's old house.
Right. Very good.
So help me out here.
I'm looking at the dentist.
Rick Carey's house.
No, you're at the wrong end.
You going further?
Further
You're
on.
going
Way,
further
way
away.
It's
Before
a
that.
top like near
Way back.
45.
Remember Nick Lily's lived in the corner right there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right there.
Right there. So again, my question stands, is there anything that could or should be asked of the residents to do to help make our improvements that much better?
I can't answer that question.
No, I'm not asking.
So I'll
How
say,
bad, how egregious is it? Is it like
Yes.
so bad that they can't stand it, or is it just a little bit of water, rain after rain?
like this time of year, it's very soggy right here.
It's very wet.
King tides and
Yeah, it's very soggy.
Well, everybody has to deal with
And
that.
there's standing water. I'm gonna say historically, it has not been customary for owners to actually do their own.
Have any of the residents complained about it?
Mostly 35.
We had them here,
Yes, they have.
we had them here complaining.
So, and I want to move beyond, and no disrespect, I know that you're choosing your words carefully. I want to move beyond the customarily, because if we continue as a town to spend money on infrastructure that is either negated or eroded by the fact the residents are not doing what they need to do to help, I think we're throwing good money after bad. And you know what, there's been a lot of areas in town that are finally stepping up to the plate rather than saying, just complaining. They're like, what can I do to be part of the solution? And I think that that's where we need to start thinking.
Great.
So I guess, do we want
That's
to?
the same thing for Coconut Lane that
Mhm.
Susan brought up.
Well, Coconut is
Yeah,
all
like that.
homeowners. I mean, there's not, we've already fixed that what was it, 10 years ago?
Mhm.
This could be clean the dang pipes out.
They don't-
What would the homeowner really have to do over there on Spanish River? What
What could
culpability
they
would they have?
Swales and driveway trenches?
Reestablishing this.
But then we didn't tell them to do that when they put the driveways in. So
There's that-
it would
there's
have
that
to- it
brand
would
new
have to
bill.
fall on somebody coming in there and building a new house, we have to give, that's when we would,
Correct.
we do the swales and the driveway.
That's when we could mandate it. I'm saying ahead of time, it does not hurt to ask and say, if you want some improvements, help us.
You could ask, if you don't ask, the answer's always no, so, yeah. I know what I would say.
Oh, as former mayor, I know what
You
you
put
would
your
say.
boots on,
No,
walk through it.
Nice, real nice, as we sing, yeah, good. Good to know where you stand. Okay, do we want to leave it in? Do we want to defer it? Do we-
Defer.
I think it should be deferred. Let's give them
And I think also the town
homeowners.
should send a note out about swales to the nearby addresses.
Agreed.
And the other thing is, we keep ignoring this, and Lisa brings it up, sprinklers. The sprinklers, you know, the devices now, that's $100. And people have their sprinklers running during a
Mhm.
thunderstorm.
Mhm.
So maybe it's encouraged versus demand,
Yeah. Mhm.
right? It's great.
Mr. Guy, you could take care of that for us?
Yes.
Okay.
It's too cheap. I always turn off my water. I always turn off the sprinkler manually.
I got a new system, and it's got a $100 Wi-Fi to the pump. It's amazing. 10-year battery.
So circling back to 10A, is there any appetite from the commission to look at adding the $75,000 back into the budget?
No,
No. Okay. I'll take care of that. Okay, the next item that we had looked at that unfortunately will no longer be covered by ARPA was number 17, which was a valve pan locator. Am I right? Yes, at 65,000, high priority.
Which item
Or
was
we'll-
Number 17, page 8.
well, can look here.
I believe this was one that Billy spoke to, and he was pretty firm that it would greatly improve being able to maintain these things if he actually knew where they were.
Yes. Which will save the town money and resources.
it? Time. I think that needs to be funded. It's something that
Yeah, it's kind of a no-brainer, you gotta find
Yep,
it. You gotta do the dang thing.
I'm just,
Right.
this is my job, guys. Okay, good.
No,
Okay.
no one's criticizing.
Number
We're
18,
we're agreeing.
okay, potable water valve installation on inlet K, $11,000. I think that probably goes right along with number
Yep.
17.
It sure
They're kind of
does.
hand in hand. Okay, so we've been able to shave or defer 50.
So how long did they say that's been going on? The Spanish River? Years? Months?
Yeah, it's been a while.
As far as the residents coming to complain, it was the residents at the far end, at the Bimini.
At the Bimini Cove.
Yeah, see, that, they've always, I mean, it's always been a complaint.
And now
Well,
they've
complaining
got that
here,
guy
but-
who's trying to redo the house and just compounded the issue. It's like 2 feet of water. or something.
We've done a lot of work down there.
Mhm.
Been a lot.
do we?
And again, that work's not gonna be any good if everybody has a driveway that goes like this and dumps the water right into the,
Until you
right
sell
into
the
the cul-de-sac.
house, and we're able to build something on it that's not regulated to the nth degree.
well, you can't do it both ways.
There's no way you could trap the water coming down those driveways, even if you had the best
Oh,
technology.
no, those
I
drive,
disagree. I've asked Lisa very specifically.
yeah, listen, I have one of those driveways.
Oh, yeah, you
I
do.
have actually 3 of those driveways.
Yeah.
And it's amazing when I have the trash can that gets full with water and I dump it onto the driveway, virtually everything goes into that drain. That swoosh of water that comes rushing down, everything goes into that drain. Those
You know,
things
you know
work
the trash in
fantastic.
the trash can? and all that?
No,
Good
Water,
believing.
Water.
But my question would be, as far as the driveways are concerned, if you're redoing your driveway, if you're resurfacing your driveway, put new pavers, change material, at that point, do we require to put the drains in?
Yes, we are required to put drains in, and we do enforcement.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be a new build or a 50% build.
No, once a driveway is being repaired.
Not many people redo their driveway,
No.
to your point.
And they certainly
Not
won't start.
Great. Okay. There was two other line items within the budget that I'd like to open up for discussion, just so we can have clear direction. One was a part-time employee for the Public Works Department, and the other one was a part-time employee for the Building Official Department. From what I understand, whether they are 1099 or not, we have to offer workman's compensation for them to actually be allowed to work in the town, but we do not have to offer employee benefits as in health. Can they buy in if they would want to?
I don't have the answer to that yet.
I thought we discussed having Durrani be the main guy and then taking hybrid and having them do all the inspections, which would take the load off Durrani and let him concentrate on his expertise.
So we had two different discussions, and that's why I'm bringing it back up. I don't think we ever had consensus.
I missed meeting one.
Oh, that's right. you had a little bit. So, yeah,
No, I did mention that.
Yep.
To take the inspection, we give them all to Iber, so he doesn't have to be out in the field all the time.
Right.
and then the back half of that was that if we had somebody on our own, would there be any consideration for a higher level of service, because they would then get to know our residents and know our codes and not have to, with hybrid, it seems that we get who we get. Sometimes we get Manny, sometimes we don't. And then back to your point, we had discussed maybe one person wouldn't have all the qualifications, electric, plumbing, blah, blah, that we would need.
They
So
don't.
I just don't think we came to consensus. So that's why I'm.
So my understanding was that if it's an electric thing, they send the electric person. If it's a rebar thing, they send the rebar person.
That is correct.
So
Yeah,
you
there's a bar.
But
People, fine.
there's some people that will
Multiple.
have every or almost all.
I think Durrani is a rare example of that.
My GC, for example,
Yeah.
has all of them. He has the pool to the solar, to the, you name it, he has everything.
Mr. Guy, can you please
So
help us here?
this came out of a discussion I had with several people about being more efficient with the use of funds that actually come into the building department. First of all, the building department is an enterprise fund, so it does not affect the budget. The monies that are used are either used to pay hybrid, or it would be used to pay a staff member with a part-time or full-time. It will not affect it. So what we're looking at is the quality of service by a hybrid inspector versus the quality of service by a person who's committed to the town. The first thing is, yes, it is difficult to get someone who actually has all four trades. However, if someone is a site supervisor or a general contractor with a minimum of 5 years of experience, that person can be given what's called a provisional license in all four categories: building, electrical, mechanical, plumbing. They can be given that license, and they would work under the auspices of a supervisor. That would be under me as a building official who actually has those certifications. So what we have now is a hybrid. Some guys are good, some guys not so much. But the big thing is we make rules here with regards to requirements exceeding the Florida Building Code. Florida Building Code is a minimum. For example, real example, we had a septic replacement. The guys who replaced the septic tore up the swale area. They planted grass on the septic area. They got their approval for final from the health department, However, they were failed by me because they did not have the grass in the swale area. And they argued and they fought that they've done this for years and it has never been a requirement. Why are we asking for it now? And the homeowner got very upset. And we explained to them, showed them the code, and finally it was done and we had the swale repaired.
What did they have in the swale?
There was grass, a little bit of grass there before, but when they came in and swooped everything out, they just left raw dirt.
Like scrub.
Right, there was nothing. Also, we had situations where they did the same type of replacement and they basically took out the swale that was there and they flattened it. So,
Yeah.
so the drainage that we just talked about, unless we have someone that is paying attention to the needs of the town, this will be missed. When I do inspections, I actually pay attention to that. But like now, when I'm doing all plant examinations and I'm depending on hybrid, it's hit or miss. And most times it's a miss when it comes to enforcing the town's code. They'll do a good job with the Florida building code, but the town has higher demands than that. So we keep missing that. And even with the swale, what can we do? There are times when someone does a driveway, right, or does a repair to the area adjacent to if we don't have someone who understands what the requirements of the town is, then the contractor will meet the minimum of the Florida building code, but will not meet the town's requirement. And there are many examples of that. So that is the advantage you'll get, as well as it is less expensive, because if we do find someone, that person will be able to go to a property. And for example, a person is closing out 3 or 4 areas that will happen in a single visit, as opposed to the person sitting around all day and waiting for 4 or 3 separate inspectors to turn up. And it seems like there are times when we have, we do, some of the guys at hybrid actually have multiple certifications, but it seems that we're always getting one inspector for each trade, for each job. I guess they charge by the inspection, so I don't know. But,
How much does this person cost?
The rate we're looking at offering to this person is $26 per hour as a trainee. And the truth is, when they become experienced, that maybe in 4 or 5 years, they could get more money elsewhere. But I do think during that training period, the town will benefit greatly from that person getting that training and getting that certification, maybe falling in love with the town and staying a little bit longer. But that is pretty low for someone with that multi-certification. But that is the number we're looking at.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, that $35 an hour would be removed from some hybrid projects, so it would be covered.
It would be an exact
We would
wash.
hope.
Yes.
So we should try it for a year, right?
I don't, particularly the fact that it is an enterprise fund that is a wash, so it is not really a
Right.
financial hit to us. I don't understand why we wouldn't. And particularly if you feel that it is somebody that you can really reach out and, this would be perfect for someone who's retired and doesn't want to work full time and
Yeah.
potentially has lots of experience and just wants to.
Because $35 an hour for somebody with those qualities is not high.
Mm-mm.
So they better be retired.
So looking at consensus, would you be in agreement to looking at the part-time employee for the building department?
Yes, what, Carlos, get some.
I have to read into record Vice Mayor Herbert's regarding the building department hire.
Okay.
I absolutely support the new hire for our building department. Our building department, which is made up of Mr. Guy and Lisa Burns, is hugely understaffed with the amount of development in Ocean Ridge. With the continual cycle of the new and rebuilds Ocean Ridge is experiencing, our limited department has become overwhelmed. In light of the recent situations in the news, it is glaringly important that time-intensive, detailed inspections, plan reviews, and the ability to have personal interactions with contractors, subs, and residents regarding any and all building on this volatile coastline is a priority. In order to give the necessary as well as concierge service Ocean Ridge is becoming known for, I feel it's imperative to fund this new hire. I believe both Durrani and Lisa are an integral part of the town's beauty and success, and positively feel they are in desperate need of more staffing.
All right, so there's 2 yeses. How about you, Ms.?
You can't count that, yes.
Okay.
Because
Well-
they have to be present.
Okay.
I'm a yes, but I had a question. How many hours do you picture this person working each day? Full day?
20 hours for
20
the
a
week, so it would be possibly pretty much 3 full days.
What did we have as a total, Tracy, in the budget? An annual total for this?
We charge per,
It's washed anyways, but
44,708.
thank you.
we charge per inspection, correct? Or do we calculate per inspection?
I do, the contract is here. I'll take a look at it. I do believe it is per inspection.
Do we charge?
Yeah,
It's
when
within the building permit.
it's within the building
Yes.
permit, so, yeah.
Correct.
So it's $700 a week.
And how,
This guy gets all the benefits or not? I lost track of that.
no,
No,
just
not all
the,
benefits for
just
part-time.
workman's comp.
Workers' comp,
That's
and FRS.
That's it.
As far as, on a 1099?
Not a 1099, it would be a part-time employee.
So roughly 35.
So let's get this straight. This new person's gonna be a part-time employee, not a 1099,
Right.
correct?
Correct.
Okay. Part-time employees in Town of Ocean Ridge always seem to become full-time employees. So let's remember that,
Mhm.
all right? So if this guy's a part-time, is nice to talk about, but it will become it's a fait accompli this town. Never fails. However, if the work that is going to be done is going to be complementary to the town and going to be a break-even proposition, I can see it happening, but it's going to take a while before that person, this person you find, which to me is going to be kind of like a unicorn. It's going to be that part-time guy that knows all these things. How long do you think it's going to take? Well, guesstimate how long it's going to take to even find a guy. A person, I shouldn't say guy, person. Right? I mean,
Would that change your decision on whether you?
it
want
does,
this
because what
person or not?
happens is when you hire somebody and it's going to, I'm just being a devil's advocate. I'm Mr. Guy, and I am hiring somebody. Well, I have out of the four certifications I have, I've got 2. And I haven't been able to find anybody for 6 months, 8 months. I'm still going through this process of doing hybrid. Well, then I may take the guy who's got 2, or a person who's got 2, and then work from there and teach them. So now it's a year before they get certified again. So the town is, when you hire, I think the misconception is when you're hiring a new employee, part-time or full-time, the town is taking on now a responsibility and something more than, and you're going to have to, the town's going to be paying for that and not getting the immediate proceeds from that. So we have to understand it's an investment that we're going to be doing. So if we're going to do that, I'm in agreement that it would probably help our town. However, I just want to be, straight, because this is not going to be something that somebody's going to walk in here and do everything that described, because your point, which I understand, is this is why right now, since you've been here, it's been kind of an upheaval with the people who do work in the town, because what happens is Mr. Guy, when he goes out and does inspections, he inspects it to what the town ordinances are. Whereas before, it was inspected to what town ordinances are, basically across the board, what's normal and what's customary throughout the rest of the county or counties, because that's how Hyber inspects. So what happens is, like the swales, some of that is only at places where Ocean Ridge does. It's another thing. So I can understand, that's why we have some upheaval when you're going out there and doing these inspections, and we have another person pushing with that person, not that knowledge. You can teach them to do that. I can understand that'll help, but how to retain that person? Because like you had just said, once that person is to a point where their experience, it can be taken away at any moment's notice.
So to answer your first question, it will be 3 to 6 months to actually find a person. We have a difficulty with the level of background that we do here. So, probably 6 months to get someone, and then to actually train them, it's another year for the person to really be competent in being comfortable. Most people have, as you said, 1 or 2 trades, and then for them to get comfortable with the other trades, then, that takes a little time also. But of course, I mean, we have to be flexible, and whoever that person is, initially we would play on that person's strength. If that person is plumbing and mechanical, obviously we'd have them doing a lot of plumbing and mechanical, easing them into the other trades over time. All right, but either ways it would help. And yes, it is a reality. I mean, we're looking at starting the person mid-20s, and probably still getting the level of increase that we have in place right now. I mean, we don't know what will happen. We could get someone who's retired. I actually do personally know of a couple general contractors that are retired and that would like to get into the system. The avenue, the street, the gate is open for someone to do that, but not many towns or building departments have the patience, let's say that, to actually offer this to someone to step into that position and to work with them.
You're right, that's exactly my point.
Right, so it will take some time, it will take some,
In a
but
year.
it is. So,
Where it's not gonna be break even, you guys keep saying break even, it's not break even. Because you're not trading with this hire that we have with hybrid. Hybrid's still gonna be doing inspections for a year and a half.
But think about this, right now we're paying hybrid, what, $40 an inspection?
It's 40, yes, 40 per inspection,
We're paying
45 per
$40 an
hour.
inspection. That means every hour and a half that this part-time employee would be here, every hour and a half, he has to do one inspection to be at the same level of hybrid.
Right, but he's not gonna be doing it for a year and a half, Martin.
He's not gonna be doing it 100%
Hopefully he
time.
would be doing more than that.
I hear exactly what you're saying, I hear what you're saying. And it is a wash because it is an enterprise fund. So whether they are a full-time employee, a part-time employee, an employee at $400,000 or an employee at $20 an hour, the building department covers whatever that financial piece is through permitting fees and other things like that.
Well, that's true if you raise your permitting fees to cover the additional costs of, you're
You
saying
won't
that.
need to at this point because
Pay a
it's still,
secret tax.
it's still so much cheaper than hybrid.
But then we're losing revenue out of the building department that goes into our general fund.
But we have to have a wash on that, right?
Yeah.
So,
You have to
Johnny,
do the analysis at the end of the year.
Right,
You
you
can't
have-
have a
You
lot
can't
of money
say.
going into your general fund from your
Yeah.
building.
Oh,
It's
that's
tough to
that's
go
like a
right there.
building
You can't make
department.
yourself-
And if you do, then you have to lower your rates.
What about if we go two avenues at the same time? If we're going the route of saying, let's try to find a part-time employee that he can train and get into and possibly have more than just two trades on his resume. And at the same time, try to find a 1099, a good GC that is going into retirement, and let him go with, if we're paying $40 to hybrid, we'll pay him $40 for an inspection on a 1099 basis. Or
Then why, at that
$35.
point, why not stick with hybrid? I mean, I hear what you're
Because,
saying.
because
do
the
both of them.
GC that we would have
Mhm.
knows our code. It's that one person. My problem with hybrid is not hybrid itself. My problem with hybrid is that it's 20 different inspectors that are coming into this town that have absolutely no clue what they're doing here as far as our code.
So.
That's my problem.
Well, I brought it up because I think that's a good idea. But in your case, what I'm trying to explain is that it's not going to be a wash because again, you can't say that because you haven't raised your permitting fees to cover that. However, having said that, if you put it in the budget and we don't find anybody for 6 months, it's budget neutral anyway.
Correct.
So, but the
That's why I
point
don't know
is,
why
that
we're
the
so
town,
discussing
but the
this.
point is, you just don't make an offhand decision to hire a part-time person, knowing that you're going to be investing in town taxpayers' money for a certain amount of time to train somebody. And that's really the bottom line here. And is that what the direction the town needs to go or wants to go? So that's my point.
I have every indication that our residents want faster permitting, they want quicker turnaround on their inspections, they want people that they know coming into their house versus somebody who is a contract employee that rotates in and out. So I feel philosophically, to answer your question, yes, this is what is needed to grow our building department, and it would be what the residents would prefer.
So I have a simple question. The guy comes in, he only has two certificates. and with the person I knew was 4. So during that time period when he's not certified, is he still working 20 hours a week or is he working 10 hours a week?
So he gets certified based on 5 years of being a general contractor or supervisor. So that person would immediately get a certification. So they're immediately certified as a provisional.
So you're saying one of the
Inspector.
requirements for hire is 5 years under their belt, 5 year
Yes.
minimum.
It's
Okay.
a 5-year minimum under the
He
belt
can't do
as
everything
a
with
site supervisor or a general contractor.
So then he can basically jump into any inspections.
Yes.
Some of them, if he's not comfortable with, he has to ask you
Right.
for guidance.
And some inspection types are easy. For example, AC changeout. You still have to go there, but the checklist is not so difficult. The most difficult portion of it is the portion that we don't really pay attention to, and I say we generally as inspectors, is the requirements for the town. Because we're in the CRS, we have higher standards with respect to the location of the AC units.
Mhm.
So we have to elevate our AC units, and it has to be away from the property line. And those are the things that we constantly miss hybrid. But they basically
Sure, and once
do
they've been
an
told
inspection
yes by
for
one person,
FBC,
they have
but
to
then
come
it's
back and
there,
tell them no.
and it's another
Makes them.
7 to 10 years
Does that
before we
actually
get a
happen? Somebody
chance.
pours the pan, puts the AC in, hybrid okays it, then you go and tell the guy he's gonna move it?
No, we don't do that. We basically just, egg on our face for 10 years until we get a chance to get it again. Right now, there's one of the multifamily on the south end where they have about 15 AC units on the property line. Over the years,
5-0?
1-5.
1-5.
So we usually don't take public comment, but since
so
we
we
have
can.
only one public.
So we're moving,
I'd like to
towards that.
invite you.
We're moving them
Okay.
slowly.
I just have 2 questions or comments based upon something that both Jeff and Martin said. I agree with Jeff that once you have a part-time person, it tends to evolve. But what Martin also said, I think has a lot of merit. Can we consider having not just a part-time person, but a contractor that's not hybrid, but an independent contractor that has experience? And I don't know what, even if you have to provide them some of these benefits, I don't know, but then you don't have that potential of making them a full-time employee, which I can see the writing on the wall, absolutely. So that's one question to consider. But another question that I don't understand what we have, if we have done this, is when you have a contract with someone like hybrid, can we not write into the contract that you don't want multiple people? That you only want a handful of
We
people?
try that every
No,
year.
you can't control a contractor, and that's the same thing with a 1099. You can't control that 1099 contractor. You can't control their hours, you can't tell them when to be here.
That's not surprising we have to cover under the workers' comp. Why would we have to do that there at 1099?
We don't,
Because they're not a 1099.
we don't, there's point. We have to cover
Yeah,
a part-time employee.
In the beginning,
Well, before we did something about covering.
right.
No, they have their own.
So given
They
that,
have all their insurance, liability.
I think the smartest way to go is with an independent contractor.
I
Well, you gotta be careful of that.
Right.
So you're gonna carry some heavy duty liability insurance, a lot of them won't do that.
But you want somebody dedicated.
I'd like to
Yes.
take one
Yes.
more.
You're
yes.
talking dedicated
Independent,
to
yes,
just
an
Ocean Ridge.
independent, yes, an independent contractor that's dedicated to Ocean Ridge.
Bingo.
But they're not a part-time employee. But they're a dedicated person.
Thank you. And for people who don't know, Zoanne's career was as the head of HR for Intel, so she knows what she's talking about.
So Madam Mayor, I did do a memo in the last meeting about that.
Mhm.
And basically, in order for a person with a 1099 to perform the duties of a building inspector under Chapter 553 of the Florida statutes, they technically have to be an agency. So that person would have already to have had a license. They would have to have all their insurances. So they would basically be a hybrid.
Yeah,
So,
we're gonna
and then
be
that
hybrid.
person is, why would they just stick with Ocean Ridge when they can go somewhere else and get paid double?
Okay, so I would like consensus on moving forward with part-time employee for the building official. Commissioner Bichelet? Yay or nay?
Yay.
Yay.
Yes.
Yay. Yay! Okay.
Long discussion for you.
No, good to get it all, to get it all discussed for sure. And part-time employee, and unfortunately Billy is not here for the Public Works Department. Town Manager Stevens, would you like to speak on his behalf or to that situation?
Yeah, we see a lot that is happening now where Billy and Chad just can't get to it. I mean, just the other day, Chief and I were walking through this building, looking at different areas that need to be maintained, and they just haven't had time to do it. So what we're looking for is to have a part-time person do mainly building maintenance and trash removal and some mowing duties, so that Chad and Billy can focus more on the bigger public works projects.
So building maintenance, mowing, and
Garbage pickup. And that's in the building and outside beach trash. And
Hold on.
Did you ever check with waste management? Not waste management.
Waste pro, yeah, no, it's problematic.
They don't want to touch,
Mhm.
Because they won't put the bag back in. I think Billy is one of the hardest working guys that we have.
I'm
Yeah,
I'm
thank
just
you for
worried about
saying that.
burning them out.
You're so
Yeah.
right, and he's extremely knowledgeable.
It's amazing.
Yep.
His depth of knowledge is incredible.
This,
So
On the
that-
other hand-
does that transfer into he needs another employee?
he wants a part-time employee. I would feel more comfortable at
Well, really,
1099.
it transfers into let's let him grow and use his knowledge for bigger projects instead of having him be the one out there doing the mowing and the
See, that
garbage
sounds,
pickup and
sounds better.
maintenance.
Now mowing, we have a contract with CW.
Yeah, but we
Anytime we
just
got
bought
to
a
add to
mower.
them, they just.
We just
Well,
bought
we
a
haven't
mower.
bought it yet.
Everybody, yeah, it's
We
in the
approved
budget.
it.
Right.
We've bought it.
But that isn't for CW, that's for,
For
Correct.
us, to do the
I know,
alleyways and
yeah,
things that
I
CW
got you.
doesn't do.
so to Jeff's point, at 1090, this sounds more like it could be handled at 1099, right? Because he has three responsibilities, A, B, C, and he accomplishes those three and then he goes home.
And
Do
it
you
could
want,
be
do you want to set his hours? Because if it's 1099, he gets to choose his hours. That's the issue.
He gets to choose his hours?
oh yeah,
Yeah,
you can't.
spend that night,
not
fix up the
control
hours.
Independent contractor.
So- So
Well, wait a minute, what if you control his duties and if he doesn't perform and you get rid of him?
Well, you give him a list of duties and then he can do those list of duties at any time he picks within a certain timeframe. you give.
So why wouldn't we go
Shows up at 9 or at 8 in the
a
morning.
contract like we've had with hybrid? Why don't we go to a contractual arrangement with, there's plenty of property maintenance corporations out there, whether they're individual or 3 people or 10 people. I mean, there's plenty of that. Why wouldn't we?
How much are we talking about here? I didn't, what was it? What are we talking about for this employee?
Was it 35?
33.
33,000?
That
That's kind of a
includes-
no-brainer.
That includes wages, FICA, workers' comp, and retirement.
That costs everything. So it costs us that if we hire outside.
Yeah, well, the problem is if you hire outside, you're gonna get less hours for what you could get for a part-time employee.
And you have control over that person.
Correct.
So can we use that person then to paint our building?
Not a full timer.
Depends on how tall they are.
So the requirement would be 7 feet or taller.
Yeah,
Vice Mayor's,
Christmas parties get bigger and bigger.
yeah. Vice Mayor,
Vice Mayor Herbert's comments regarding the Public Works hire. Please know that I also strongly believe that adding a position to the Public Works Department is essential to keeping our town moving forward. The incredible amount of work that our 2 employees accomplish is mind-boggling. Having a dedicated part-timer on board will allow Billy and Chad to concentrate on what they do best, help keep this town up and running 24/7. There are important public works projects and detailed infrastructure maintenance, i.e. hydrants, pumps, road drainage, that need to be addressed, and often there is neither the time nor the manpower to do so. We are lucky to have two gentlemen who are not only intimately knowledgeable with the inner workings of the town, but personally invested in their jobs. Their abilities are being squandered on issues like litter and garbage pickup.
Hey, look close.
Let me just add that we have a rotation for call-outs too. They have to be called during the evenings, and this person could be added to that rotation to alleviate some of the, Billy has been primarily the one called out, and for him to be always on call 24/7 is not fair to him.
Maybe you should have been Brian.
He shouldn't?
He should.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
That's why I call that one.
Yeah.
It's right here.
That's where you gotta call.
Right down the street.
It's
Yeah,
to
you
move to
can't
West
reach him when
Point.
you do that.
Yeah.
All right, so what do you want?
Okay, consensus, yes?
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. All right, there we go. Any other items in the budget that commission would like to bring up and have discussion on?
I had one question, and I apologize because during my staff meeting, I was not here. I was doing this over the phone while I'm actually driving in the car. I pulled over.
And eating lunch?
Yeah.
on that, yeah.
Yeah, sure you did.
And
I pulled over.
It was very windy that day, you could tell.
those were cars zooming by. The interest rate that we're paying on the state revolving fund, the storm drain fund, do you know offhand how much that was?
Not offhand, but I have it here.
And I know we had that discussion 2 years ago with Phil here.
Yeah, I was gonna say Commissioner Vesper is.
He knows all of those things. I should have called him. And you can email it to me too. If you don't have it handy, just email it to me, don't worry.
Okay.
That was taken too.
Talk about the part-time positions. Unless there's anything else, I think
We
we're ready for
wouldn't-
adjournment.
Well, the only thing you have to do is decide the mill rate.
Village.
Don't forget the mill.
On our town commission, we have workman's comp, or we have some sort of insurance. General liability and workman's comp.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't take a salary, would that change? Would we still have to do workman's comp? Because if you look at this,
Yeah, because you'll-
it's ridiculous, you know?
Whether you get paid or not.
Yeah, but that's because they divided across the entire staff.
Yes, you still would, because even if you're considered a volunteer, we still need that workers' comp. You need to be added to that. Even when we use volunteers,
But
we
it
have to
wouldn't
let
be-
our insurance
There
company
wouldn't
know.
be any savings.
And I'm sorry, I don't see as an action item decided upon millage. Am I misreading something?
No, you're not, but it was supposed to be as part of the discussion of the proposed budget. So what I would recommend is that you present the budget for the first public hearing at the 5.65 that is going to show up on their bill or their proposed sheets that they get from the property appraiser.
Didn't we already do
And
this last
then,
time?
well, you said your maximum millage, but what I'm recommending is that you keep that and present it that way, and then lower it from there at the first public hearing.
But I'd like to present actually all four. I mean, I don't know why
We can present it just like this.
Yeah.
If you'd like.
because I want to make sure that these numbers, to your point, Commissioner Claus, are as tight as possible. I mean, I think we got it down, but I mean, basically, we're looking at either a range of either taking from reserves 216,130 on the low end to the high end of 552,404.
Okay, so we'll just do it that way. If that's the consensus, we'll just present just like we did here. We'll present all the different scenarios. Then you choose from there.
In a letter to the town, to the residents?
No, in the proposed
budget.
budget package that goes for the first public hearing on the 7th of September.
And at the first public hearing, we'll set the millage and then we'll have the second reading. So, I mean, I think we've tightened it as tight as we can. Unless there's a big windfall that we get or something happens.
Right.
Miracle. Yes, Commissioner Hurlbert, would you like to say something?
For her mill rate discussion, please know that I support raising the mill rate to 5.54. It has been many years since this rate has been increased, yet costs continue to rise, much of what we have no control. Our needs involve keeping our town in the strongest, healthiest, and most productive possible position. The added cost to residents at this new rate would be approximately $220 more per year per 500K of taxable value. This amount is hardly onerous versus the benefit to be gained. Property values have risen dramatically in the last 2 years. According to local realtors, our prices are now equal to other formerly high-priced neighboring communities. This is not expected to change. To keep our slice of heaven strong, user-friendly, future-oriented, and in great working order, our infrastructure needs to be shored up after some years of deferred maintenance. This would also include being proactive in lieu of waiting for issues to be worsened or newly developed. I also believe we need to properly fund our town staff at the very best possible levels possible to attract and keep top-notch personnel. It is necessary to continue bringing our mechanics of working town, which include equipment and IT up to date, as well as staying ahead of the curve. Also funding the best outside resource on an as-needed basis, i.e. engineering, legal, grant writing, etc. It's money well spent.
I'm dying to hear how she hit 5.54.
You can't call her, I don't know. Okay, with no further comments, I'd like to go ahead and call this meeting adjourned at 3:12.
Do we go directly to Shane or we wait till 4?
We have to wait for the attorney.
Give it a call when we're ready.
The attorney's office.
Come on, what are the attorneys, you know, what are they doing? Driving around in his desk waiting to collect the, why not?
If she's here, yeah. See if she's here.
Well, it's
Yeah,
not
she might
the,
actually be sitting in the back.